sort of that honesty, and they'll say at the register, it's cool that you guys do this. So it works.
Yeah. So number 3 is ignore best practices or do the opposite. And I have the word "and" there, but it's really or do the opposite because.
Okay. Elaborate. What do you mean?
Well, so when someone says like this is the best practice to do flea market sales or this is the best practice to do online marketing, I go, who the hell came up with that idea? Who's this? Who is this group of people that think that this is the best practices and who says that this is the best? Why can't I do something and try something completely different and new? And maybe that becomes a best practice or gets lumped in with the other best practices. And maybe you stumble upon something like revolutionary. Like it basically says like, this is the best practice. That's like them saying, color in the lines, stay conformed to what we think you should do. And I think, no, I don't want that. I don't like that. That doesn't flow with me as a person. Like I want to invent something. I want to be inventive and create something completely new and maybe in the process end up creating something that makes me a whole bunch more money just because I didn't follow the best practices. And that's why it's either ignore them completely or take what they say and do the exact opposite, because that's just one way to say, okay, well, if someone says I need an opt-in bribe on my website to get people to subscribe to my email list, then I'm going to do the opposite and give them absolutely nothing and tell them they're getting nothing. And it actually worked really well. And people were like kind of blown away by it because it's like, well, wait, how come he can do this? And, everyone's been telling us we needed an opt-in bribe, but this guy did the opposite and he's getting more emails than me. It's because I decided, and it's part of my rules, to ignore or do the opposite.
It's funny you say that. About 10 years ago, a smart marketing friend of mine said to me, Corky, what you got to do on the internet is you have to do something either borderline criminal or insane to get noticed. Well, I mean, I don't think what you do is either criminal or insane. In fact, It's refreshingly honest and transparent and open. And so those of you that do manage to stop by moneylab.co to visit with Matt and see what he has to offer, be advised that there is some foul language on the page. Yeah. And there is some brutal honesty on the page. So if you're not really ready to get kind of raw and real about what it takes to compete online and brand yourself, and this doesn't mean, we all have to be sort of like Eddie Murphy with all kinds of foul language in our act, but at the same time, it might work for your audience. So don't be afraid to ignore the best practices and do whatever the heck you want to do, because somebody out there will appreciate it. Yeah. And hopefully will become a customer. So that said, here we are telling you things. And one of the things that I appreciate about what Matt does is that he doesn't just tell you things, which he certainly does. He has lots of opinions.
I do.
But never tell, always show. Rule number 4. What's that about?
So, I'm going to change the wording of that. It's the same thing. But, it's just the word show, don't tell. Because, it just sounds better. But also,
branding. It's branding.
Yeah, branding. Right. It's all these sentences are like, as I'm looking at them, I'm like, all right, I'm editing them in my brain because I'm going to go and change the way they're worded. The principles are absolutely the same. And the idea is, I don't want to be an authority on anything. I don't want to sit here and say, of course I have opinions and I'm going to be very firm on those opinions. But when it comes to what I say on Money Lab, I don't want to just say, I think you should do it this way. I don't want to be the guy creating best practices.
What you should do? Hey, bud, you know what you should do? Yeah, that's what that comes across like. So prove it, right?
Yeah, right. So, and whenever someone, it's not even like, it's not even that I want to prove it. I just want to do it. I just want to do it in public. And then people can look at it and say, okay, well, he did it. So either I can do exactly what he did or take what he did and do the opposite and just have a place to start. And I think that there's, it's not me being an authority. It's just me taking action towards one specific direction and saying the real advice here, it's kind of underlying, which is just go do the thing, go make the thing, go sell the thing. Like, sitting here and constantly researching and constantly learning, every moment of you doing that is a waste of time to where you could be out there, selling or making something online. So whenever someone emails me through moneylab.co and says, hey, Matt, I have this idea for this website, or I got this idea for this product. What do you think? And my answer, kind of behind the scenes rule, my answer is always, I don't know. Go do it and tell me what happens, because I don't know.
Right.
I can speculate to death. I can tell you what I think would happen, but that could stop you from doing it. That could say like, well, Matt thinks, that this product isn't going to sell, so maybe I shouldn't do it. I could be, there's a 79% chance that I am 100% wrong. And I know that math doesn't work out. But the idea is like, why are you listening to me? I don't know anything. I don't know more than you. I don't know more than anybody else. I don't know more than and no one does. Even like if you look at like the big guys in the world who are like, Richard Branson's of the world. Like, why are you taking his advice? I mean, maybe as a starting point, sure, and maybe as like some inspiration, but like, don't take what he says as gospel. He's just a guy. He's just a man. He's just
I'll tell you why. I think I know the answer to why people listen to Richard Branson or listen to you, and because of number 5. Always be entertaining, right? So yeah. Richard Branson, I remember, now he's not a spring chicken anymore because I'm not, and he's older than me, so I want to out him, I'm not sure. But I remember one scene that he rappelled off a building to inaugurate, or to introduce a christen, I guess is the word I'm looking for, the building. Yeah. And he rappelled off the side of it and then, dashing around the world, being the jet setter that he is, starting these cool businesses in rock and roll and cell phones and space and things. He's entertaining, right? Elon Musk, same way, right? So these guys in their various ways, have been entertaining, and you are entertaining. So as you stand here and say, here's the thing I did, and it bombed, but it bombed hilariously. Let me tell you about it, right?
Yeah.
Number 5, always be entertaining. And how do you manage to feel ready to do that? And for flea market folks, I don't think you have to stand in front of your booth and juggle.
No.
But I think if people walk into your booth and you're a sourpuss with a dour face and a frown, and you look up and you're kind of like, can I help you? They're not going to deal with you. But if they come in and you're bright and cheery, they'll engage with you, and you can show them things they might not have seen and make that sale. So always be entertaining. How do you do that and stay on?
Well, I think, you look at, the advice that are given to most salespeople, which is like, people are not buying the product, they're buying you, right? And they can't really, no one's going to buy you if you're a Debbie Downer, if you're just a sad sack and you have no personality whatsoever. Like, you're just going to inherently be a bad salesperson. And so that, I'm not on all the time. Like, the way I'm talking to you now, like, this is not the way I talk to my girlfriend in the morning when I first wake up. I'm not going like, hey, let's go out there and start making money. It's not like this. It's not this like character, but I think that when it comes time to like get something done or sell something, or, you're going to put on a character. You're going to become a character. You're going to become entertaining. And I think entertaining is just being likable, right? It's not really about like, it's just, or not even likable, but relatable, because you could say, somebody like Rush Limbaugh's entertaining, but, he may not be likable, and that's what people like about him. He's a polar opposite of people, or, he gets people fired up. And
I think he's doing number 3. Ignore best practices and do the opposite.
Sure. Right. And it's like, I mean, I don't like to use him as an example, but the idea of like just being relatable. And I think being relatable is, a part of being entertaining. And one of the things that I think about is, when you sell something or make something or do anything, if it's not useful or entertaining, then it's not worth anything. It's not worth selling. Because if it's not going to be, it's useful, it's not going to solve someone's problem, or it's not going to entertain them and make them feel good or bad, if depending on what kind of entertainment you're looking for. It could be horror movies or whatever. But if it's not one of those two things, I don't really think you have a product at all. You don't have anything to sell.
I think that's true for us. Useful or entertaining is true in the flea market industry. I was walking through the flea market on Saturday with a friend of mine who'd never been to this particular market before. And this friend of mine likes to make artificial flowers. And as she walked through, we saw that there were booths that were selling artificial flowers and apparently doing well. They had an entire booth of handcrafted things that were very beautiful and at fair prices. There were other people who didn't really display them well, and so on. So this woman was walking through there, and she realized that she could have a competitive advantage just by being kind of nicer than the people in the booth, more entertaining, telling a story about each craft that she made. Whatever it is, at the end of the day, you're either useful or entertaining. Artificial flowers are not I'm a guy, so usefulness is relative, right? So, but, there's something that you find nostalgic or pretty, and art can be entertaining even if all you do is look at it once a day hanging on your wall and get, evoke some emotion that it makes you think of.
Sure.
So, being entertaining has a number of different meanings. I think when we bring it around to the flea market, it's all in how you present your product, how you present yourself, and remembering that people, like Matt said, will buy from people that they like, and they can determine that pretty quickly. Try walking through your flea market sometime and see how the different vendors react to you when you come into their booth, and which ones make you feel more comfortable about buying from them.
And just think about it as yourself, too. I mean, if you go into a store and the clerk is mean to you or just kind of has an attitude, like, you just don't want to go back. You don't feel good in that store. And
Exactly.
The same thing, if someone's a customer, I went into Target one time, and just the guy at the customer service when I was returning something was just overly, like, so nice and so cool. I was like, I'm going to go shopping. Like, I wasn't planning on it, but now I'm going to stay in the store because I just felt good being there. Like, he just, it made me feel good, and that's part of it, for sure.
I routinely go to a more expensive gas station like an idiot simply because the people there are nicer and they have better coffee. There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
So, number 6, all challenges must have a monetary goal and a deadline to achieve them. Now, we in the flea market industry not only usually live weekend to weekend or month to month at our markets, but definitely have deadlines because we need to try to sell out every weekend, or we have to, in some cases, haul the things home. You've done this on a more grander scale with your projects. Tell us about number 6.
So this is one of those brand rules that I am sort of like, it's sort of mushy right now. So these rules are constantly getting more and more refined. But this one, when I first started Money Lab, I wanted to have a monetary, challenge or a monetary deadline. So
sure.
It was, hey, I want to try to make $10,000 doing this thing, and when I do make that $10,000, the challenge is over. When I actually found out that what was more important was the actual timeline of when you completed something. So it's yes, I can try to make a $10,000 selling sponsorships on Roasty, for example, or I can try to sell sponsorships in 30 days or 28 days is what I did, and just try to like time capsule it so that way you're forced to be creative in how you get things done. And it's the same thing in the flea market world because you guys have a built-in time frame. It's it's kind of like you have this one weekend. So now you're sitting there going, okay, well listen, I have 2 days to sell out all of my inventory. And you start to think more creatively because you're like, well, I really wanted to do this and I really wanted to display this, but I don't have the time to do that. So how can I achieve that, in the time frame that I have? And I think that, I love that about sales and deadlines is you're kind of forced to make decisions based on, look, there's an end time to this. I cannot do any more after this. And so if you're making something online, for example, it's like, well, I really wish it had all these features and all these bells and whistles, but I have 7 days. So it's like, all right, what can I strip out to make, to actually sell, the maximum amount or the create the what they call in our industry, like the minimum viable product,
right.
Which is, everything that the product does like very, very well. It does this one thing super well, and that's all it does. And you will be known for that, and then you can obviously expand from there. But you have, 30 days or whatever time frame you give yourself to complete something, and that could just be doesn't have to be just like the time frame of going out and doing a flea market, but actually starting. Right? It's like, look,
yep.
If you haven't started doing flea marketing yet, okay, starting today. You have 5 days now. You have this Friday. You better have your first sale, right?
That's exactly what we do on our blog, and we even have some guides as to how to do that over at TheFleaMarketGuide.com in the course of 1 week to get started.
So that's it. And it's like, look, you give yourself no safety net, no chance to escape. You have 5 days. What do? What choices do you make in those 5 days? So that's
right.
Sort of what that means.
And you know what? It comes down to, if you're going to refine that one, and we know that with content and with our business practices and with everything we do to become more efficient, take what you're doing and cut away all the extra weight and then do it again, right? Mm-hmm. So bring this down to number 6. Take action. And, take action and be consistent are two recurring themes in my blog articles as well as on the podcast with the pro guests that come on board and say the exact same things. Mm-hmm. Taking action and being consistent allows you to do one more thing, which is to kind of measure your results. And when you're being consistent, those measurable results